Howdy ho, the name is Echo. Today is Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. It is the 53rd day for the Love On campaign. And today currently makes it 1,396 days since I've seen my firstborn son. So today I've been trying to look up statistics, specifically alienated children who grow up into adults and then have their own children, and the vicious cycle continues and they alienate their own children, or they are alienated, or whatever. The vicious cycle continues. So I was trying to look up stuff on that. I was also trying to look up in 2021, the first protest, I believe it was, Father's Day protest, when the police came out to declare if they could do anything about my protesting or not. I found out that 70% of all law enforcement agencies do not have a plan set in place for parental abductions. Now, I say abductions because kidnapping means ransom. I do still say kidnapping, but it's not technically kidnapping because, like I said, there is no ransom, no money. So it's technically abduction for my story. And I made that into a sign. And that's a pretty big chunk. 70% of all law enforcement agencies do not have a plan set in place for parental abductions. So that's another thing that I'm always trying to Google and find. That was a couple years ago that I had that sign. I can't find anything recent. I'm trying to figure out where I found that one. So I'm reading all this stuff on perolination and perolination syndrome, or malicious mother syndrome, and whether it's me from reading or what, or just the mood I'm in today, I'm just kind of not in the greatest mood, I feel like. So I keep trying to go through articles and find something that I want to explore during this video, during this discussion, but I can't pin it onto something, and it just makes me want to move along and bring up everything else. It's just amazing being older. I'm going to be turning 41 in like 2 months, next month. And there's a lot of things that were said and done when I was a kid that, I mean, I grew up with knowing, but like now I've been connecting the dots. Still connecting the dots. Probably has to explain why I'm angry a lot or all the time, or there's just new triggers. I can't go to my so-called mom and dad or brother or sister or cousins or grandparents or aunts or uncles and ask them about the history of anything, of our ancestry, of just, I can't ask them anything. I can't ask them, you know, hey, does cancer run in the family? Or, hey, can I borrow a cup of milk or something? That's just not what we do. I have to find out everything the hard way, and I will always be ignored and told no, and that I'm wrong, and that I'm crazy. So all the evidence and everything that I find, I have to pretty much figure out on my own and deal with it by myself. I don't get no closure. I don't get to have clarity. I don't get to have a discussion. I'm not even supposed to know about the stuff that I'm finding out. What am I finding out? What am I talking about? Just, unfortunately, all the dirt that the so-called family has done. And it's not that I'm trying to necessarily get revenge or be like, you know, two wrongs make a right. It's because, for one, my son is a grown adult. I already don't have him. I already lost that battle. So there is literally nothing for me to lose. So at least if I can use my experience and speak up and talk about it, then at least that'll help somebody. It's not necessarily me wanting to say, hey, they're pieces of shit. It's because of the things that they have done and the evidence that I have leads up to that they're pieces of shits. It's not that I'm taking great satisfaction in knowing that the people that I come from, you know, the people that birthed and raised me are evil people. And that does suck. I understand. Credence, if you're watching, listening, or anybody who has love for my biological parents. But I grew up with them, okay? I know them. And the way that they treated me was abusive. It wasn't necessarily all the time physical abuse, but it definitely was mental, emotional, verbal, all that other shit. I even had a primary doctor once tell me, wow, they really did a number on you. And I didn't like the fact that he even said that to me too, because that just led to more questions. But it's pretty disturbing, appalling that I am how I am and who I am because of how I was raised, my environment, my life choices today. I don't blame my parents for everything that is today. No, I do take responsibility for myself. Absolutely. So I'm not even trying to cop out on that. It's the fact that they did me so dirty and they did me so wrong, and that there is no coming back from that, and that they don't want to, and that they don't try. It's this is all these videos too are exactly everything that I've been wanting to say or want to talk about with Credence, with my parents, with my so-called family members, but they don't choose to. And when I had been to family functions in the past or been around them, they do hush-hush. They don't want to talk about it. They keep it hush-hush. They'll ask me everything and anything, but then when it comes to time for me to want to know stuff, oh, we don't go there. It's completely double standard. They treat me to an expectation that they don't hold themselves. All of them. The evidence that I find also is not to be like, hey, look, I'm better than them. It's that they used my past and my wrongdoings against me, especially when I was a youngster, and they weren't giving me any guidance and they were leading me the wrong way and everything, that I lost my train of thought on that one, guys. Sorry. It also made me think of something else, and then I forgot about that. Today is Central Auditory Processing Disability Disorder Awareness Day. I have CAPD, Central Auditory Processing Disorder, and that was another thing that I was researching, like I do always, along with everything else before I started this video. My older brother took speech. I took speech. A lot of people take speech. My older biological sister has a hearing impairment and has had a hearing aid. I don't know if she does now or what she uses or whatever, but we were told that she could even become deaf when she was an adult. So when I was a kid, I kept, my parents kept getting me tested and kept wanting to see if I had a hearing impairment. Nobody tried to figure out, oh, that maybe it's something else. I mentioned this in another video. My sister, who is 3 years older than me, and my mother, when I was like 15 years old, was sitting there crying at my house in the living room, and they were calling me crazy and stupid. They weren't trying to figure out, oh, maybe there's something else, maybe it's CAPD, let's get her some help and figure this out, you know, and that she's not stupid. They used that to their advantage and made me cry and made me feel dumb and made me feel stupid because that's what they told me, and didn't get me the right help. That is abuse. That's abuse. So I do have a lot of things going on in my head, a lot of things that trigger me and get me going, and it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to process, especially when you don't get to, when I don't get to have the closure and talk to them and figure stuff out with them. I gotta do it all on my own. So today's just a heavy day, guys. I'm sorry for the ramble, and I have so many thoughts and emotions that, and it's not like it's my first rodeo, you know, this is my life story. This is what I'm used to. I'm used to the abuse. But it's also hard to just not accept, but just because it's harder for me to connect the dots and I'm a little slower in that area, I wish that people would just be upfront and just tell me the way it is. When it's somebody like your mother and your sister, you don't expect them to lie to you or treat you that way, or I mean, I was a little kid and I absolutely loved everybody in my family. My mom was my best friend growing up until I became a rebellious teenager and wanted to have a boyfriend and have my own friends and stuff. And that's bringing up all other memories too. They did not like my friends. They did not like that I made friends with people who weren't white. I grew up in Hillsboro, so I was friends with white people too, absolutely, but I was friends with Mexicans, Salvadorians, Puerto Ricans. Race was never a thing to me, and in fact, I did not think that they were going to like, let alone love my son. That's a horrible thing to say, but they are the biggest bigots that I know, that I was so afraid that they weren't going to love my son. He is half Mexican. They don't know his biological father, nor would they want to if they have the chance. And I was so relieved that they fell in love with Credence. I was scared that they weren't going to love him. But then I had no idea what was coming. I had no idea But they were basically just trading me for him and kicking me to the curb. And then of course it's one thing to take one kid and now he's older now, and I had to deal with the repercussions. But I have other kids. I have a family here now, and they have to deal with the repercussions. So it's just a slap in the face. A lot of days, most days, all days. They couldn't even let me just be a part of his life. They literally did not want me to mother Credence at all. They said and did the most awful things when I was pregnant. I also remember about the time frame that things kind of switched when my mom started, the behavior didn't seem right, but I couldn't pick up on why, and I couldn't figure out why, and I knew that it wasn't, I didn't do anything different, I didn't take advantage or anything, it didn't seem right anyway, it was like a trap. But, so like, my parents are really, really strict, or they were, or whatever, and they don't budge on the rules. So, when I had Credence, they made sure to let me know that they weren't going to be like, they basically told me that I would have to suck it up, be a mom, and figure shit out on my own, and that if I wanted a babysitter here and there from them, then yes, of course, that they would and they could, but, you know, appropriate amount of time, I'm going to have to pay them money, stuff like that and everything, just, you know, figure stuff out. So, like, I knew the rules, I knew it. And then, so I had Credence 2 weeks after I turned 19. So when I turned 21 and 22, I was going out to the clubs, Burnside, downtown Portland. I would go with a few couples, certain of girlfriends that I had at that time too, and we would go and dance. And I remember, because if I'm out that night, I have to be back the next day to pick up Credence. Can't sleep in, can't be, you know, I partied that night, but that doesn't mean I get to party the next night, you know, like, I gotta be an adult, I'm a mom. So I was always really good at making sure that I didn't take advantage of them in that aspect, and that I listened to them, and that I was mom, you know, and that they were just watching Credence every now and then if I wanted to or needed to go somewhere or something. And I also always suggested other daycare means, but they squashed that. They didn't want Credence with anybody anywhere else. And then they came to the terms, well, we don't want to get paid anyway. He is my grandson, and I would just love spending time with him. So after everything like that changed, and then I would be going out, and I remember dropping Credence off one time, and I remember my mom telling me, and I was at the front door too. I was at the front door dropping off, bye, I love you, and then I'm getting ready to leave, and I remember her telling me, like, I remember exactly what the words were, but it wasn't right. It didn't fit with the rules. It was something like I could stay out longer, or I could, you know, like, I didn't have to worry about picking up Credence on time, or I could, you know, she also maybe like offered, something was just wrong with how she talked to me, what she said to me, you know, and I remember not asking her anything and just saying, okay, thanks, and going about my day that day. But I remember when things started to change, when things started to shift, when things started to be different, and I wasn't wiser. I didn't have a clue. And that time frame too was at least for a good year, and I know that, whether I can prove it or not, I know that with everything in my being and my heart, because I found out later, after I got the attorney, many years later, that had I gotten an attorney, there's a lot of things that they shouldn't have done, but the time frame was too late anyway. And I found out that if you, basically they had Credence with them as much as possible, and a living space for him, his own room and everything. And then whoever he was with the most during the week, during the months, for like, I think a period of 6 months, then it was going to be easier for them to go to court and fight me for him. And I was working at Better Java, BJ's Coffee, at the Sunset Esplanade, Hillsborough Mall. And I would have to be there at 5:30 in the morning to open at 6. And I lived in Aloha, they lived in Hillsborough. Wasn't really a bad idea, wasn't a bad setup, but if I wanted to get my son up and going, I'd have to wake him up, pretty early, something like 4 o'clock in the morning or something or whatever, give or take, and just get him ready and get ready for the day and stuff like that. And maybe not even that early, but just, disturb him in his morning sleep, put him in the car seat and take him off and stuff early in the morning. I would get off at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I would immediately go and get credence and everything. And then our agreement was, because I had to work the next day, that I would drop him off at like 9 o'clock so that he can go to bed and I can go to bed. But I dropped him off over there so that I didn't have to get up the next day. So I worked like, a full-time job, like 5 days a week. So that didn't happen. I don't think we even got that far where he was there that much. But that's what they were pushing for. They were okay with it. And I also remember thinking too that when my mom wanted that to have him over, I remember thinking to myself, that doesn't sound right, because I would think that my mom would argue with me and be like, no, just get him up and do this and get him up and do this. Like, she even agreed that he should be there at night, and that wasn't right to me, but I just let it go anyway. There's a lot of things like that, connecting the dots, figuring things out later. So yeah, I'm a little sad today, which is contradictory to the theme, #love to the alienated, turning this around, make it into a positive spin. But, loving the alienated and being alienated, it's got some really, really, really rough days, some rough times. I might not ever, ever get to see Credence ever again. And I have to be okay with that somehow. I have to move on and live my best, happy, and healthy life so that if and when he does want to come with me, I'm a healthy, happy parent. I just wish that he knew. I understand the cost and the risk for him, but it just blows my mind too that my son doesn't have any desire or rebellion in himself to want to be with me or know me, and not just now, but before, in the past, anytime. And that just shows what kind of a job my parents did to Credence. But I also know what kind of number they did to me too. I had a doctor tell me that I was conditioned well. That's a lot to sit with too. Or being told by one of the many therapists I've seen that you are being abused because you allow the abuse. That was hard, but I also understand it's because I didn't know how to set boundaries, and when I did set boundaries, I would either be taken advantage of, or it's like I would try to set boundaries with anybody, and I would say something and they wouldn't listen to me or wouldn't be. So I would say it more rudely, or maybe I'd be upset when I say it, and then so my reaction, the way I am, doesn't get my point across, and they don't like it. So either way, I either get taken advantage of or I'm mean. I can't set a boundary. That's pretty much where I've been stuck at lately. So setting boundaries are hard. if you've never set boundaries or you are the one who's being taken advantage of. And Credence, every day I worry about that you're gonna see or hear what I'm doing, and then you're like, oh my gosh, and run for the hills and be so embarrassed. And I get that, and I'm not doing it to embarrass you. I'm doing it because I can't stand being away from you. I can't believe that we have 18 years of abuse and alienation under our belt total. That our first alienation period lasted a whole measly 22 months. That I've gone periods of 5 years or more, give or take, without seeing you. That right now I'm over 1,000 days without seeing you. You know, it's hard to believe that this is my life. This is the way that it turned out. But in the same breath, I am okay in my own skin. I took my life back. I am taking my life back. Whether or not you're in it, whether or not you believe me, I have to do what I feel is right, and not just for me, but as a role model for your siblings, my other kids. I also have bonus kids. Just ever since I was a little girl, I felt like I fought my parents, and my brother and my sister, in the sense where, like, I know it sounds petty and pathetic. I'm not asking for sympathy. I never got along with them. They never got along with me. I just felt like I never belonged with them and that they just never liked me. And, you know, for them to turn around and to take you to punish me for not listening to them. I've always struggled and have been told to shut the fuck up, do what I'm told, blah, blah, blah. And I've always been in trouble. When I was a little kid, all the way up to almost 18, I'd be grounded to my room. No TV, no music. I could read, I could write. Those were my outlets. Great outlets, yes, but my only outlets. And the thing is, it's not even fair. It's not even right. I was not harming you. I love you. And whether or not they thought I was doing things right or if I was a good mom or not, they really did me dirty. Not just me, but you and all of us. It's just... My brother asked me once before, don't you think about mom and dad? You know, they're elderly, you know, why are you doing that to elderly people? Not that this is the answer for it, but I do have an answer. They didn't give a fuck when I was a little kid. Elderly, young, whatever, same difference. And it's, again, not that I'm not trying to be like, it's what they get. It's, they had no mercy on me the whole time growing up to present day. That when I speak of the truth. I have no mercy when it comes up to bringing up everything and stuff. But I'm not doing anything. I'm just exposing them for who they are. I already don't have my son. So, in hopes that he'll maybe come to me one day, or at least I can help other kids, other families. Nobody deserves to go through this type of torment and turmoil. This pain is excruciating. If you Google what kind of pain a targeted parent, alienated parent feels, Google says excruciating. And either way, even if Credence, you think, you know, you just don't need me or Tank or your siblings or anything, then, I mean, okay, but that's just it. They made it where you don't even want to associate with us at all or even get to know us a little bit. And what hurts the most for me personally, like, if you don't want anything to do with me, okay, I get that, or even my husband, but you have siblings, and you shouldn't wait until they're adults Because they're little kids with little minds right now. Just like I was, just like you were. Break the vicious cycle. I'm going to end this video. I feel like it's been too long anyway. If anybody wants to get a hold of me, please email me at echonoviceraiндunham@gmail.com. EKCO, Echo, Novice, NOVICE, Rain, REIGN, Dunham, DUNHAM @gmail.com. Alright guys, have a good day.